Waldorf University is committed to providing high-quality, affordable education in a flexible online format so you can reach your higher education goals on a fire department schedule. They offer over 130 fully online degrees with programs at every level designed to meet the needs of fire professionals. Their fire science alumni includes all ranks of the fire and municipality leadership. Waldorf University is now offering 20% off of tuition for all Blue Card ICs. Go to waldorf.edu/blue-card for all the details.
Welcome to the Bee Shifter podcast. You've got John Vance and Josh Blum today, and this is the Bee Shifter Blue Card rundown for January 2026. Good day, Josh. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, been busy. Glad to get back at it after the holidays. Been a busy week this week, even with having a holiday this week. It was, busy on the phones, email, on the road with a class, getting other classes scheduled. So, yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, same here. We had a great week last week in Burnsville, Minnesota. The Burnsville, Minnesota Fire Department hosted a Blue Card Train the Trainer. I think we had 8 or 9 departments in there. There's a huge representation everywhere from St. Paul, of course, Burnsville, Minnetonka, Maple Grove. I know I'm forgetting some in there, but we had area departments, and this is where I live. And it's really a good representation on how Blue Card should work within a region, because now you can, you're going to skip jurisdictions once in a while. There's holdouts and areas and pockets that in the metro area that do not do Blue Card, but now more departments are. And it's really good to get folks in the room. And when you realize, hey, we're all speaking the same language. And if we end up on a 4 or 5 alarm fire together, we're going to be able to operate very well together. And so not only does it bring that operational thing, together, but also they're, starting to share resources. I mean, this week or last week, we were talking about command vans and expanded command teams and how are we going to operate on that. So these Blue Card Train the Trainers, when we're in areas that I would call very, more advanced, like this. And I'm not saying that to pat ourselves on the back. It's been a lot of hard work that people have been doing around here since 2011 to make Blue Card happen. It's very, very evident. And things that we're ahead on, and we're going to talk about this in a moment, especially when it comes to what our webinar is going to be, but things like using tickets to get on the radio. Generally all the departments around here are, I would say at least, 70% are. And then when you simulate and you forget it, or departments aren't, and we saw that with the big box workshop that we did with Shane Ray here last month, it's very apparent. It's like, what, you're leaving a gap there. And it kind of throws an IC off a little bit, because you're used to either triaging the communication, or the sender of the communication is used to formatting it using that ticket to get on the radio. So that was a really good one. Our guys are on the shores of Lake Michigan this week, man. They're in Benton Harbor. I know, I love how you send these guys out, Josh, from Arizona and Nevada to one of the coldest places in the continental United States. But that's a whole brand new area that's coming up with Blue Card. They've done a great job there. The Benton Harbor Department of Public Safety got a big grant. What kind of work are they doing there? And is that kind of a model that we can help people use if they're going to bring Blue Card into an area?
Yeah, so that's a regional project that they got an AFG grant for. Several agencies in the county are part of that. So we're actually going to be there, I think, 7 times. We're doing a train the trainer, and then we're delivering, I think every workshop we have, we're delivering that. And then we're actually delivering a strategic decision-making workshop 2 different times to get more people exposed to that, which is just that other layer of, far too often we hear Blue Card is just a communications program. And it's like, well, in the strategic decision making 2-day workshop, it's another layer of in-depth dive of what Blue Card is. But it is decision making, right? And the communications process part of it is just where we're acting out or giving communications to everybody, staying on the same page. But everybody there still has to make decisions, specifically IC1 and IC2, and then, obviously division bosses. So that's like the next step once you have instructors and you're getting people, certified, is it just takes it to a whole new level of getting everybody thinking and everybody on the same page. Because we want our firefighters on the fire ground, able to make decisions. And, sometimes when experience lacks, training can replace a lot of that. And I think the strategic decision-making workshop, helps with that. So yeah, we're pretty sure we're going to be in Benton Harbor like 7 times this year, starting this week. And then this weekend, they're delivering the first strategic decision-making workshop. So 5-day trainer and then a strategic decision-making workshop. So that'll be really good. Yeah, Chris and Eric are struggling a little bit, I think, up there. They're from the desert. I think the day before, Chris flew from, I think, San Diego, and it was like 78 degrees to South Bend. And I think he said it was 100-degree temperature difference when he landed. But yeah,
welcome to the Midwest, boys.
I'm just broadening their horizons, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It's well, I don't like to be in Phoenix when it's 117 either.
Yeah, I'll take that, man. Our high temperature on Thursday this week is going to be -11. Our low is going to be -25. I know you're feeling the deep freeze too, so I would take any kind of warmth. So one of the things the train the trainer this week and last week, there's a new curriculum. It's not completely new. I probably should say it's like revamped. You always say we're in command function number 7 as a group. Blue Card is. We're always reviewing and revising and making things better. And we looked at our train the trainer curriculum, and everybody drifts. Fire departments drift. We drift towards things and address certain needs at the time. I think we went through a period of time as a training organization where we were training brand new fire departments in Blue Card and how to teach it at the same time. So maybe we went a little more basic, and I think we've gone a little more advanced now with this new way of delivering. So talk a little bit about what we are doing today with that new train the trainer package and what people can expect in 2026 versus last year.
Yeah. So the big thing with the train the trainer is we want instructors to leave there with all the tools and support to be able to deliver the program at their own organization and be confident about it, comfortable and confident about it. And, I think we, like all training groups, sometimes we were just looking at the outcome, I think, and not, the entire process. So the one big thing we did is we were teaching people how, but we weren't given near enough why. And though, on Thursday we do the Mayday management, component of the train the trainer, and people really start to connect to it. I think on Thursday, a lot of light bulbs go on Thursday, even for the ones where the light bulb was very dim and the naysayers. On Thursday, it's like, okay, now I see where this is. So, the whole team of everybody who's a Blue Card instructor, has engaged and given feedback and what we can do better and how we can deliver it, the train the trainer part better, to give people all the tools that they need to be successful. So I know, John, last week it sounded like you guys, all the feedback you guys had was, it was really good. The front end of spending 2.5 hours on this is why Blue Card is what it is, and this is why we do what we do, and here's some instances where Blue Card is connected back to that. Blue Card can prevent some of these things from happening if you just follow the process and best practices. So I think that's really good, because that's going to give people some ammunition when they're standing in front of their folks of, why are we doing this? Far too often we hear, well, ICS is ICS. And it's like, no, it's not. I mean, I just heard this week some folks taking a command class at the NFA, and they spent one whole day bashing Blue Card at the NFA. And then it's funny, the next day they were talking about the 8 functions of command. And it's like, well, which way is it? Yeah. And I say this all the time on our podcast, and not just podcasts, but everywhere. It's people don't even know what it is. So they're afraid of it. So when you're afraid of it, they start talking about it. And it's like, well, why don't you just find out what it is? And Blue Card aligns with all of the best practices for incident command. And, there is nothing else out there that aligns and meets, best practice and standards. And, I think there's some proof in the pudding with that when you hear all of the folks from all of those 4-letter organizations that talk about Blue Card and not just Blue Card, but Fire Command, the first edition of Fire Command, or what Bruno wrote in his, original notes before Fire Command, the initial version of Fire Command was even ever pushed out. So we're excited about this updated version of the instructor program. And with that comes quite a few revisions, nothing earth shattering, nothing with the main foundation of what Blue Card is, the 8 functions of command and evaluation of critical fireground factors using strategic decision-making model and pushing it through the risk management model. But we've refined it so that the end user has a better product to deliver. And we refined it because some standards update stuff. So NFPA 1550 update and NFPA 1700, we've just made sure that some of our terminology aligns. An example, basements. We refined the basement part. I think we kept on getting further and further in the weeds on identification. What do we call certain basements? And we cleaned that up as an example of it's just the 3 basement types that are identified in an NFPA 1700. It's either, no basement, somewhat accessible, or fully accessible, right? So, I mean, that's basically and before we had walk out, look out, walk up, and it's like, well, what does all that really mean? So we stay in a state of fixing ourselves, just like fire department should stay in the state of constantly fixing themselves. And we also look at, well, this is working really good, so we're going to keep that, but we're going to refine this part. So looking forward to delivering that this year.
One of the discussions that come up with this refined curriculum was competence. And that's one slide in that intro now. But we spent a lot of time in the class here in Minnesota, and I know I got texts from somebody who's in the class in Benton Harbor talking about competence, not only competence as an IC, but then having competence as an instructor and how important that is. And this is a certification program, and people tend to forget that sometimes. We are certifying people as incident commanders. So sometimes we have to say, not everyone can be an incident commander. We need to work on this more. And then if you're going to stand up in front of the class and deliver a program, whether it's Blue Card or ropes and knots, you better be good at it. Mm-hmm. And you better have some competence with it. And these are very interesting discussions that we're having with people. I know it's a little more esoteric, but I think it opens the doors. And I saw tons of light bulbs coming on here in Minnesota when we started talking about not only competence as the IC, but also being a good command instructor and somebody who can model what you're supposed to do in the field and then deliver that inside the classroom. That's stuff that we're going to be talking about during our webinar. We have a webinar coming up on Wednesday, January 28th, for our instructors. So if you're a Blue Card instructor, sign up for that. There's a link in the show notes, so you can sign up for that right now if you haven't gotten our emails. We have about 250 people signed up for it so far, but we have a lot of instructors. So if you're listening to this and you're not a Blue Card instructor, go to your instructors within your department, make sure that they're signed up. When we do our webinars, they are live so that we can have interaction with you. We'd like to field questions and get comments, but if you're not able to make it live, we send you a link to video on demand immediately after the webinar is done, so you can watch it at your convenience later on. So if you've got a meeting or it's your day off, you can just watch it later on. But we have a lot of good information coming up for our instructors in that webinar, and we want folks to attend.
Yeah, so just one other piece of a revision we've made in the delivery, and we'll hit this on the 28th, but just to kind of put it out there to everybody who hears this, is our simulation previews. We've made another revision to those, and those previews are set up so that it's how Blue Card can be modified for your organization. So, example, we always hear, well, we're not the Phoenix Fire Department. We don't have that many people. We can't deploy like that. We have 2 people on a fire truck, so we have to put 2 engines together. Or we have 3 people on a fire truck, so we put 2 engines together to create an attack team. So, how do we do that with Blue Card? Because that doesn't align. And it actually, the Blue Card system aligns 100% with that, because it comes down to, you have to make decisions based off of critical factors and all the factors. And we are always using the 8 functions of command. So command function 1 is deployment. And that's what we have to look at first. We can't do work that we don't have the people to do. So we have to identify what is the priority and what work can we do with the people that we have available. So the previews have been refined again to align with that. So your organization can decide and make it all line up with your deployment model, not you train one way and then you do something else. So that's another piece that has been refined.
The light bulbs that go off too when we start talking about things like the IAP +3 for the first arriving company officer. Not that we expect them to even do all of those things that need to happen, but we want them thinking about it. We want them identifying, okay, if I'm going to put water on the fire right now, what else needs to happen behind me in order not only to support my attack position, but also to get the other priorities in the structure done, whether that's checking for extension, getting all clears on different levels, supporting ventilation and other support work. Folks start to think about that, and it suddenly empowers the company officers too. And I think that's another part of just what we continue to talk about, especially in those previews. So we want you to get signed up for that. It is Wednesday, January 28th. Webinar, and I think it's 1:00 Eastern time. So look at the show notes, click on it, get signed up, and we'll deliver all that information. And one of the other things that we're talking about, and this is new at the beginning of the year, is the availability of the after action review for all Blue Card users. It was an added value for all of our instructors last year. We've opened that up. So tell us about why we opened it up and how's it available to departments with beyond instructors.
Yeah, so initially the after action reporting system got pushed out, like you said, John, and it was available to anybody who was an instructor as a just added value. So it just popped up on your dashboard if you're an instructor, and you could use the after action reporting system. So pretty early on in the rollout of that, we were getting feedback. Well, we have other people who we want to do after action reports that aren't instructors. And so we, just like everything, all the feedback we get, we take into consideration of what do we do, how do we do it, and then put it, in that processing line, if you will, of when can we make a change and meet the needs of the customer. So we're finalizing it now. It's actually in test. So the AARs rolled out, and we got plenty of people who are entering and using the after action reporting system very regularly. If they're dispatched to a structure fire, even if it's not a fire, they still do an after action report on it because they identify the how well they're doing on the front end still with initial rater report, follow-up report, maybe assigning a couple companies. So what this expansion is if your organization does Blue Card, you have an instructor, at least one, and your organization has full access to our material, CE and so on. So they're paying the student subscription price. Then it's a subscription for additional students or additional users to get access to the after action reporting system. And we built that out to make it pretty easy for organizations to add additional folks in their system to use the after action reporting system. And part of that is we have 9 battalion chiefs, or we have 12 battalion chiefs, or we have 20, whatever the number is. And, but we only have 4 instructors, and our 4 instructors can't possibly enter and do all the after action reviews. So, we heard that, and now we've developed this subscription-based program so that anybody in your organization that is Blue Card certified can have access to the after action reporting system. So there'll be more pushed out on that here in the next week once it's live on our dashboard. We have plenty of organizations, like I said, that are using it regularly. And then we have plenty of organizations that have an event. I've been working for the last month with an organization that had a May Day, that had a good outcome. They hadn't done any after action reporting. They really had self-proclaimed that they were really nailing it. They were really nailing it. They were doing fantastic on the fire ground, and they were doing pretty good on the fire ground. And there's plenty of things that we can always identify there that we can do better. So this first after action that this organization does, they identified all kinds of things besides how the Mayday went. And, the Mayday was a person not injured, hurt at all, disoriented, for a very short period of time, solved very quickly. And the Mayday part actually was managed and went pretty well. I mean, it was solved like a lot of Maydays are in, like, I think under 30 seconds. But what they identified is we as an organization are going to talk about this because we don't want this to ever happen again. And really, why did it happen? And then when they started into it and they did evaluation of initial rating report, follow-up report, assigning companies, command transfer, putting a division into place, priority traffic, all these other pieces, that it was like, wow, like there's a lot of room here for us to improve. And they identified a lot of places that they do really well. So when we talk about after action, a big part of it is reinforcing good behavior and working on what we can do better. And I'm not a big fan of anybody saying what we did wrong. I like what can we do better? And that's why it's so important that we evaluate everything that we do. We can't measure it off of, okay, yes, great job. We put the fire out and we pulled out a victim and they survived. Okay, that's fantastic. That's what we're here for. That's a great job. But when we look at the path of how we got there and we identify, okay, that was really good, but what are some things here that we can still do better? That's how we continue to improve on the fire ground every single day, is looking at ourselves and saying what we can do better. And that's why I say all the time, as a company that delivers training, we are always looking at how we can do better and how we can fix ourselves. And just like the fire department, for us, it's a process of, you can't flip a switch and it just happens overnight. So we identify something we can do better. We put folks to work fixing it, and we spend time, commit to it. And then on the other end, we see that improvement. So we're very excited about the after action reporting stuff. We got, I'm not even sure how many are in there now, but I think 1,000 or so after action reports. I think we got like 17 of them in there now, with victims being removed. They gave priority traffic, gave conditions, actions, and needs, specifically reported, we need a cyano kit. And it's like, if you just pull that out and share it with your entire organization, from, hey, here's a priority traffic with a victim found where they nailed every single component, and you share that with everybody and say, this is what we want it to sound like. And it sounds like that because we train the people to make decisions. So, when we find a victim, it's not just about, okay, we found the victim. It's, we found the victim. What's the best thing we can do? Shelter in place or remove them. If we're going to remove them, how do we remove them? How do we keep them out of the hazard? How do we not make it worse for them? But also telling the division boss, if they're in place, or the strategic IC, what are all my needs? So I need a ladder to bring them out of a window, or we're going to shelter in place, or bringing them out the front door, and I need EMS on the alpha side with a cyano kit. And those are all good things that can be, reinforced when you use the after action reporting system. And then on the other side of it, that 10 or 20% of things that we can look at and say, we're not going to do this again. We can do this better. And this is what it looks like moving forward. So that just brings me to a thing that Eric Phillips talks about all the time. And he's our master on the after action reporting, piece. We can't measure success on, okay, well, it just worked. We have to measure success on, did we follow all of the process, and did we check all of the boxes that we really needed to check? And I'm not saying a piece of paper check box. I'm saying that we followed best practice and did everything that we really needed to do. And we do it on EMS. Organization makes they make 10,000 EMS runs and 1,000 fire runs, and they do 10,000 Q&A reports on EMS runs, and we can't do an after action report on 100 fire runs that we can all learn from and do better. I mean, if we're really committed to providing service to Mrs. Smith, then we should be looking to do the best we can possibly do with it, without having to have an authority having jurisdiction, like on the EMS side, medical direction telling us what we're going to do. Can't we self-identify and say, hey, we can do better, and let's use this system to help us identify where we can do better and to reinforce the things that we do well. So
everyone who uses it, once you start using it, they want to keep using it. Once you figure out how it works, and it's really not that difficult. There's a lot of pieces and parts to it, and you can make it as complicated or as easy as you want. But once you start using it, it becomes very, very easy to use. And the input that I'm getting from everybody universally is it is an objective way to make your scenes better. Because, you know, in the old days with post-incident action reviews or however we used to do it, sometimes, you know, it was open to interpretation, or whoever was facilitating the after action review, it was really up to them, you know, their opinions sometimes. This is just all fact based, and it's based on using the blue card criteria to evaluate how you did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really one of the very, very useful things about it. So we'll talk about that on Thursday, but if you're or on Wednesday, if you're not with us there though, look for it, because it's going to be available to your department, to everybody for an additional, but it's included with all the instructors right now. But we know there's some departments where it's just better if maybe, you know, a non-instructor was the one entering that information and overseeing the after action review program. Man, our calendar is busy. I forgot what you said, like 47 different events, but we have a lot of things coming up, workshops, train the trainers. What are we doing next, and what's available? Because I know a lot of those classes are full right now, but we do have availability in some of the workshops and some of the train the trainer classes.
Yeah, so we got, I think, 42 or 43 events on our schedule currently for 2026. Most of it January through June. So we got quite a bit of availability July through December. If you really needed to do something January through June, or you wanted to do something, reach out to me and we can look at what we might have available, but we're pretty stacked up. So we got a couple of openings for a big box workshop in Ocala, Florida, March 12th and 13th. And then the Bowling Green Mayday workshop, March 23rd and 24th. Other than that, we have seats in the Phoenix Train the Trainers, but if you go to our events, you can see the open seats in any of those other classes that are regional. But for the most part, they're all filled up with maybe one or two seats available, except Phoenix, there's seats open that if you wanted to get somebody into a train the trainer class.
Let me say something about the Alan V. Bernasini Command Training Center in Phoenix too, just what that experience is like for people. This is really good for departments that either if you're starting brand new, you need to, you know, you're on your second, third, fourth generation of instructor, you need to get somebody up and going. But those classes really become cohorts that we have out there. There's a real strong connection between the classes. And the wonderful thing about it is you're bringing people from every corner of the United States together, and we're operating as one throughout the week. And you just get the mojo of being at the place where command was built. Mm-hmm. So the AVB CTC is an awesome learning experience for everybody. The hotel's right down the street. Of course, the weather is usually pretty good out there too. So that's part of it. So we have a number of classes, March, April, May, and June, all posted right now at the AVB CTC. So get signed up for those. And that's really one of the few places with availability. And then what else are we doing on the road? What else we have going on out there?
Yeah. So we got quite a few other, workshops going on. And if you're interested in any of our workshops, we do the Mayday workshop, Expanded Command workshop, Big Box workshop, the Strategic Decision Making Model workshop, which is, since we launched that's gone to a whole new place. So I think we're delivering 3 or 4 SDM classes at the Worcester Fire Department, and then we're doing a Mayday class up there, and they're taking all of those seats. So Chief Dyer and Chief Fleischer and all of the folks there at Worcester are taking it to the next level there at their organization. So we do have limited availability for that big box. I think we might be able to do 1 or 2 more in the third or fourth quarter. That's always based on Shane Ray's availability, and his availability changes at a moment's notice when you're at the top of that pyramid and engage with all the things that he's engaged with the National Fire Sprinkler Association, and then all the work he does, with code work and all of that, and organizing all of the code work in all of the states and helping people, to try to get sprinkler code updates. So that's our challenge with the big box component. But that class typically always it fills up in no time. I think the big box class we're doing here in Cincinnati is oversold, and I got like 25 people that want in it. So I said, well, there's an option for you. You can go to Ocala, Florida. We got some open seats there, but that class is starting to get a little bit more momentum. We only got, I think, maybe 20 seats left in that Ocala class. The safety class, we launched that like 7 maybe or 8 years ago. Size up and fire extinguishment tactics, and it's really it's a hands-on component. But the first day's classroom with thermal imaging and fire dynamics and what's the capability of your PPE and aligning all of that with really a deeper dive into some critical fire ground factors, and then obviously burning the prop and getting people with their hands on cameras and doing some smaller scale, fire dynamics, parts and pieces. We have 5 of those trainers booked for 2026 right now, with another half a dozen of them we're just waiting on, trying to figure out dates of when we're going to likely do something with that. So a lot going on with that. We are pushing out a couple of new CEs here within the next month or two. The next Silverback CE will be out. When I say CE right now, it's counting towards continuing education, and it'll just be in the continuing education component. If you have full access to Blue Card, you're paying for that annual subscription. But when the Silverback Elite program is complete, it will be a standalone program, just like Blue Card is. So it'll have all of those modules, and then it'll have a 3-day or maybe 4-day in-person series that goes along with supporting all of that stuff that you learn in the foundational components of it in the online piece. So we're pushing that out. We got a couple of CEs that we've refined and updated that will be coming out. Working on finalizing our SOG update. So I'm thinking probably around the 1st of February, somewhere around there, all of those SOGs that are in our free download center on the B Shifter webpage will all be refined, and we're just going through those, making sure, just like as a fire department should, but we're just doing probably a lot of the work for you, making sure that our SOGs still meet best practice and meet your needs. So making sure that they align with 1550 and 1561 and 1700 and all of the other standards that are out there that tie back to incident management and incident command. One thing that I'll just push out there, if you're an instructor, in the download section, we have a whole folder that's tutorial videos, and I think because it's at the bottom, maybe it gets overlooked. I don't know, but there's like a dozen or so tutorial videos in there that tell you how to create an event, how to do tracking of your organization, how to run reports for your organization, tutorials on filling out an IC worksheet, tutorials on division ops. A recent tutorial that we just released this week that'll also be on the student dashboard so now you're certified. Now what? Like, how do you maintain your certification? What are the requirements? What's the timeline? What does all those parts and pieces that are on your dashboard really mean? So the tutorial part is really going to take the place of that old 200-page document that you had to, read through, or you could search it to find a specific thing on, I'm stuck at this block on filling out in records management or whatever. So we're replacing those with tutorial videos, and with a longer term vision of, and I'm not putting a date on this, but with a longer term vision of, those of you who are using the after action report know that there's a tutorial video on every single page. How do you fill it out? What do you really do on that page? Well, we're going to be building that out with the records management system as well. So, page 1 of creating an event, you can watch a 60-second tutorial on, here's all the parts and pieces and what goes in each one of those blocks. And then we'll likely put the little question marks, on there. So you can just hover over the question mark, just like we have in the after action reporting system of it's a little quicker than watching a tutorial video, maybe, of what am I supposed to put in this, field or this block, or why won't it let me move forward, or whatever that is. So a lot of stuff going on in the field for delivery, and a lot of stuff going on the back end every day at the office is work. While others are talking, we are working.
Yeah. Somebody in the last class we just did, and it's coming up now, usually 1 or 2 people in class, because there's a lot of social media firefighters out there. And I said, We're not a social media company. We are a training company. We train incident commanders. So that's what we spend our energy doing, not out fighting on the internet, because this is where the rubber meets the road. And these classes and all of this content that we have, including the CEs, that's the real work. That's where the rubber meets the road. And, I'm not going to be able to tell you in 250 characters how to run your fire department. But we have a pretty good idea because of the staff that we have and the success that our staff's had, starting with Alan Brunacini, who started it all for us, and us carrying on that vision. That's what we do. So if you want to be connected to it, there is plenty of content out there for you to continue on that training. And, we'll talk to folks about our CEs and then understand, well, they haven't even seen the CE or their instructor didn't let them know the CEs out there or push it to their staff. So there's a lot of thousands of hours of training that we have available to you if you're a blue card department. You just got to use it, connect to it.
Yeah. So the other thing I'll just mention is once a week I get a message, hey, I'm looking for the NIST building collapse video that they did with the Phoenix Fire Department. And it's like, okay, well, you're an instructor. It's in the instructor download center. So in the instructor download center, under videos, there's probably 24 videos in there. Some of them are very long. All the command function videos, Southwest Supermarkets videos, the NIST videos they did at multiple different buildings, the interviews with the doctors from, 30 years ago, I think now, of, survivability in conditions with carbon monoxide, and nothing that they're pushing out now contradicts any of that stuff that those doctors were saying 30 years ago when NIST was doing work at the Phoenix Fire Department and burning down, buildings for research. So when we talk about work, just this week, I started back diving into it, and John, you'll probably laugh, but now we pass stuff around on computer or SharePoint and we can all work on it at the same time and take notes. But I think just probably, 8 or 9 years ago, we used to get it. It used to come like this.
Yeah.
And it was the chief's business card with like a little intro. And then this just happens to be the cool command document. So this is what he sent and said, hey, what do you guys think? What should we do with this? And unfortunately, he passed before anything happened with it and got launched. But that's one of the things Terry and Nick are working on now, because the cool command stuff aligns with really the senior advisor role. So as a senior advisor, how do you coach the incident commanders through, and how do you help them stay calm, cool, collected, manage the event? So it's just funny. Like it's changed because of technology, but how we do work and how we share work. And this isn't one person sitting there going crazy on the keyboard. It's a collective of all of us. And then, we love to connect with the SMEs, right? Like last week or 2 weeks ago, when you had on Dan and Chief Healy and Murray Laughlin and that group, like, does this all align? Does it all make sense? Does this align with the set that those are the principals, or a few of the folks that worked on the 1700 stuff? So is what we're doing aligning with the 1700 stuff? And when you get folks with that level of experience that have delivered and developed training programs for 40 years, and that's what people look to, and they're verifying, this all aligns. That's good. And we're doing it for the end user, the customer of Mrs. Smith, right? So the more we can help the organization, the more we can deliver on the end of customer service to help the customer. So
that's what we're here to do. I say we're not command theory. These aren't theories. This is actual tried and true performance of command. And, starting with what the chief was doing in Phoenix, and then it's just expanded out there to, all these other fire departments and over 65,000 incident commanders, and growing all the time that have been trained with our system. Folks are, we're kind of in grant season right now. What kind of grant support can we offer? I know there's a lot of folks have gotten AFG grants and other grants to help support their command training, particularly when it comes to Blue Card. What are you seeing out there right now, and what are you hearing about grants, and what kind of support can we give people?
Yeah, so I'm guessing any day. I mean, I don't pay super attention to it like every single day, and bother the folks that may be in the know of when they're going to roll out application period, whatever. But we know it's coming sometime soon. All the all those folks out there that do grant writing keep on pushing out, hey, if you get ready, be thinking about your grant, all of that. So if you're looking to do or submit for an AFG grant, either local or they love the regional work for Blue Card, reach out to us and we can help you with why does Blue Card meet the requirements and why do you score well? Why does Blue Card or incident command training score well? And, there's some things with that. It's the certification and maintaining certification. It's the fact that it aligns with all of the best practice parts and pieces. When you look at 1561 and it has 8 functions of command and critical factors in it, well, it's like that's right from the first edition of Fire Command, really, right? It all aligns with command best practice for type 4 and 5 events. And then always looking for, if you look, you can definitely find, grant money and other funds out there. So in Ohio, the Public Utilities Conservation, PUCO in Ohio does quite a bit of grant work, and organizations are typically funded pretty well from them for Blue Card training. Blue Card has that highest hazmat IC certification, so that helps if you're doing some kind of a PUCO grant. If you're looking for something for that in Ohio, reach out and I can help you. And then all kinds of private money out there between, like Firehouse Subs grants, and right along that lines of Firehouse Subs, there's probably, 24 other groups that are similar to that put out some kind of funding for fire training. And, a challenge sometimes is getting it off the ground. And if you get some little bolus of money on the front end to help you get it off the ground, then sometimes it makes it easier to be able to sustain the program.
So contact us. Josh has all that information. Josh@bshifter.com if you need help with a narrative or some direction, and we can give you some examples of some successes that have happened out there. I know we're booking our travel right now. We've got a number of conferences we'll be at this year, and we want to invite people to connect with us at the conference. It's a lot better to get together face to face, especially if either your agency's struggling with something and you're already doing Blue Card, or you're looking at Blue Card and you have those lingering questions out there. Which conferences are we going to, and what can we expect?
We're going to be at FDIC. We're going to be in the main hallway again this year, so we'll be there early before the doors open for the big conference or the big exhibit rooms. So yeah, stop by, see us there. Eric will be there again this year. We had quite a bit of correspondence with people about the after action reporting last year. We'll have folks there this year to talk about the ARF IC certification parts and pieces, talk about workshops. At this point, it sounds like Nick's going to join us at the conference. So that was really nice last year. Nick connected with a whole lot of people he hadn't seen in a while and talked, fire command. And it was good. Him being there. A few people came by and, it was funny. They threw out what is Blue Card? And it was funny to sit and listen to him, because it took me back to 7 or 8 years ago, like him going unplugged in front of the classroom of here's what it is. And next thing you know, an hour and a half went by, and it's like that was fun. So yeah, we'll be at FDIC in the main exhibit hall, or right outside the main exhibit hall in the hallway. We'll be at iChiefs again this year in Kansas City, Kansas. So that's always fun. We're in the tech area again this year, so that shouldn't be too hard to find us there. And then since we rolled out the ARF program, ARF IC certification and instructor program last year, we've been attending all of the ARF working group training and leadership conferences, and they do 2 or 3 a year. So this year we'll have folks at the ARF leadership conference. That's March 9th through the 12th, and I believe it's in Texas. But either way, if you do ARF work and you're going to that conference, catch up with our folks there. They can kind of walk you through what's going on with the ARF IC command and certification program. Besides that, we're doing a bunch of like smaller state, 1 or 2 day presentations. Just last week, Chris presented at the Fire Department Safety Officer Conference in Arizona, and it was funny. He said like 5 minutes before I was supposed to start, there wasn't a ton of people in the room. He said, and then right at the time when it was time to start, he's like, there was standing room only, and it was packed. I'm like, well, that's fantastic. And then he came up, and a lot of people had discussion with him about something that seems controversial for some people about the whole safety officer piece. And, something that was in his presentation is the 6 or 7 bullet points that Dan Materkowski listed at the FSRI 2025, like symposium and update of like where they've been, where they going, and what have they seen kind of thing. And interesting what they're seeing. This program addresses most of those issues and challenges. There was nothing written on there about how do you advance a hand line, or how do you force a door, or how do you ventilate. It was the thinking part of when and why, not so much the how or any of the how task level, stuff. And then the other part of the something we say with RIT that aligns right with safety, and Chris and I have had tons of conversation about this along with the rest of our instructor group, is the capability of your RIT response is the entire response on the fire ground, and the capability of those people that are inside the building when the event happens, the capability of the incident commanders, the division boss, company officers, firefighters, everybody. RIT is not a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 person team that's standing outside waiting for something bad to happen. And it's funny, Chief Bernasini was talking about that 25 years ago. It's the capability of everybody, what everybody can do. And now all of the data points right at that, right? Because very few of these events are solved from the outside in. It's the inside out, and it's the capability of everybody, right? You can have the best incident commander in the world, and if you got shitty companies, it ain't going to work, and vice versa. You got the best companies in the world, but on their worst day, when somebody's got to organize and manage and do risk management and have an incident action plan and have the balls to say it's over, like what's lost is lost, you're losing. So the same thing with safety. Safety is not a person. Safety is the capability of everybody that's on the fire ground and the entire response. And 30 some years around this region in Hamilton County, safety officers in and out. Some guys show up and I'm the safety police, and it's like, even they say now, they're like, yeah, I'm just one person and I can only see one thing at a time. And oftentimes I'm not seeing what I really should see. So, that Chris had quite a discussion, and quite a bit of the stuff he rolled out was about that. The whole thing of safety is the capability of everybody on the fire ground, and really everybody operating in one system under one incident action plan, right? That's the big key. One incident action plan. So so that was really good. We got some other webinar stuff that we're doing at some conferences that are just basically televised, like type things that they'll play, but I'm sure I'm forgetting things, but that's what's on the horizon soon.
Oh, good. Well, look at us at a conference near you, because what you're going to be going to this year will probably be popping up. And if you have questions, you want to come by and say hi and just visit, or get some hard hitting information, stop by, look us up. We want to communicate that to you. I want to make sure that folks are looking at the buck slip. Every week we put out an article, a podcast, and new information. It's the B Shifter Buck Slip. In the show notes, you can sign up for that. And the Buck Slip's really our newsletter for incident commanders. So like this week, Ed Harton was talking about, and you brought this up before, Josh, too. When you go to a medical call, it might not just be a medical call. There could be a CO leak. There could be other things going on there. So how are you sizing up those EMS events that we're going to, so you're doing no further harm and you're actually finding out what's going on and making good decisions when you go to it? So that's our command drill this week, because we have a lot of case studies. I've been on them myself. You go to a CO alarm, you get it in your head, oh, well, I'm bringing the monitor in. I'm going to check out what it is. And in one case, I had a guy in an adjoining condo committed suicide by starting his car, sat in the garage, filled the entire complex with CO. And it really wasn't until our investigation that, we found the person who was down. And then we also found his wife very, very sick in the bed upstairs. And luckily we were able to get her out. So, those things have a way of cascading, especially when you don't size them up using really our standard 8 functions of command, even on an EMS event. So that's an example of what we talk about every week. That content is free. It's at bshifter.com, but it's also available through the buck slip. So you get it directly into your mailbox every single week.
Yeah, John, that event you just described, we have in the Hazmat IC certification program. That's one of the simulations that we have in there is car running in a attached garage in a multifamily complex, and where you got called to for the sick person wasn't the root cause of the problem. Yeah, I mean, you got called for the sick person that was just having general flu-like symptoms that was indeed exposed to carbon monoxide, but upon further investigation of somebody making a decision of we should probably investigate this further, it turns out, there was a car running in the garage and there was CO throughout multiple units and in the building. So it comes back to that decision-making process.
Well, do you have anything else for us? I mean, we covered a lot today. We have a lot going on. We want folks to keep looking at bshifter.com so you stay up to date on this, but we thought it would be a good opportunity. We like to hop on here once in a while and let everybody get the information from us on the podcast on what's happening with Blue Card and B-Shifter. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, so that's quite a bit of most everything we got, on the books or in the near future on the books. And make sure you jump on there if you're an instructor or not. Like, even if you're not an instructor, jump on that webinar because it's still going to be very informative. And we're gonna start doing more webinars in 2026 than just the podcast. So some other more informational things. Getting Eric Phillips back on, going over some more stuff with the after action reporting system, because I didn't say it, but we've added another layer to that that's also getting ready to launch of how your organization can use the after action reporting system. It's a template that's built just for running a cert lab. So it's only got the 5 buildings on it. So instead of maybe going through and checking box on a whiteboard or a piece of paper, you could use the after action reporting system to evaluate it. And then that really does 2 things. So you're evaluating the process and how the IC1 and IC2 and division bosses are going, but you're also exercising that same model that you're going to use at a real incident. You're exercising in that controlled training environment. So you can kind of make some comparisons to that. Like, why are we not doing so good in the field, but we think we're doing good when we're certifying people? Well, if you go back and look, and it's like, well, no, we weren't doing that great when we were certifying people either. We were just kind of pushing them through. So we shouldn't have the expectation that anything's going to change or that they're going to do better, when the bell rings and we're operating out in the field. So yeah, a lot going on. And as always, if you have something, you need something, you got a, productive recommendation for us, reach out to us. And we put it on the whiteboard. I think Chris has expanded yet another wall in his office of, the to-do list. And we always say we have, there's work forever because it's the fire department. And with every fire department, the idea fairy always shows up. And then it's like, well, yeah, we put it on the list and we'll get to it because there's a whole lot more idea fairies than there are worker bees.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. That is for sure. Well, Josh, thanks for being here today. Josh Blum, John Vance. We want to thank everyone here for listening to the B-Shifter podcast this week, and we'll talk to you next Thursday. Thanks.